All right, hello wine drinking people. Time for more of what I've had to drink yesterday and our Gaja tasting, an annual event now. And hey, what's better than white truffles and wines from the Piedmont? Hey, we figured, a couple years ago, we paired this with white truffles. It is a no-brainer sellout every year. And we only have a few more bottles of this 64 left. So, hey, Angela or Gaja, if you're listening, next year we'd like to get somebody from the family here to enjoy the last bottle of 64, which 3 times now has been Wine of the Night. Well, actually, it tied the 87 Darmaggi for Wine of the Night on this occasion. And this is a litany of great bottles of Gaja on the table this evening. And, I was glad to see the Chardonnay got 2 votes for Wine of the Night. One of them was mine, the 2007 Gaja-Ray Chardonnay. One of the hardest wines to get from Gaja. And this wine, you close your eyes and you would mistake this for Grand Cru White Burgundy. Just incredibly complex bouquet. Lovely vanilla, creme caramel, lemon drop candy, lovely fruit. And on the texture, just like creamy, silky, just incredible texture on this wine. And then wonderful acidity in this wine. Lovely minerality in it. And on the second day, even better. Wow, I couldn't believe how much this wine improved on the second day. And killer juice. One of my favorite wines this evening. And the 64 Barbaresco also, got a lot of votes for Wine of the Night. Well, half, I think it was 10 votes. And this wine really showing beautifully. This is the first year that Angelo Gaja took over winemaking, and he said, no more purchasing fruit. We're only going to make wine from our estate vineyards. And this is before he used new oak. They used all traditional methods to make this wine. It's still drinking phenomenally today. This wine had this incredible bouquet, lovely spice to the pretty cherry fruit, truffle, mint, black tar, really classic Barbaresco, really complex bouquet on this wine, and lovely, smooth, silky texture on the tongue with a lot of that exotic spice coming through on the finish, and lovely fresh fruit still in this wine. This wine, like I said, just incredible still to this day. Long finish. Half of the votes for first place went to this wine, and deservedly so. An incredible wine once again. The third bottle that we've had showing the same way. All right, the 1990 Barbaresco and 90 Barolo Spears were up next. This is a great vintage in the Piedmont, and both of these wines showed incredibly well. The Barbaresco, a little lighter in style, a little more approachable. The Barolo seemed to have a little more tannins to it, but both drinking phenomenally right now. We'll go another 10 or 20 years easily. Hey, if 64 is any indication, 30 more years. This one's got a lovely red cherry fruit, exotic spices, dried rose petal, a very exotic bouquet here. Still has firm tannins on the palate, lovely truffle and earth there. Wonderful freshness even on the second day. This wine stood up in the glass with just this much left, and still drinking phenomenally. Lovely freshness, lovely fruit in this way, and that exotic spice. It only got 1 vote for first place, but it wasn't far off from everything else on the table. The Gaja Spears, well, Spears means nostalgia, and Gaja had a longing to get back into the Barolo business since '64, and they did manage to purchase this vineyard site in 1988. Well, 88 was the first vintage they made. It could have been in 87. And this wine had an incredible bouquet here. A little bit bigger, a little bit more tannic than the Barbaresco, but still pretty red cherry, liqueur-like fruits, an array of exotic spices and floral notes. Still very youthful on the nose here even. And on the palate, just a little bit longer, and to me, just a little bit more complex than the Barbaresco. Both of these wines, most excellent, though. I'd like to try them in another 20 years. Who knows? Maybe we'll still be around doing this 20 years from now. I can't think of anything else I'd rather do. 1987 Cabernet Darmaggi. Hey, when Gaja pulled up one of his vineyards in '78 and planted Cabernet where the Nebbiolo used to be, his dad said Darmaggi, which means in Piedmont dialect, what a shame. And, well, rumor has it that Angelo's father ended up liking the Cabernet Sauvignon, but still, I agree. Why pull up Nebbiolo? This is the only place in the world where you can grow Nebbiolo and make great wine out of it. Plant Cabernet, which is everywhere. But this 87 would make a good case for why you'd want to pull your Nebbiolo up. This got 10 votes for Wine of the Night. Just incredible bouquet to this wine. I mean, very exotic herbs, tarragon, thyme, rosemary, very herbal on the nose, but still had lovely fruit to it. Lovely balance, red currant and cherry fruit, and lovely smoothness on the palate. This wine, the tannins almost fully resolved, but still had wonderful intensity here, and layers of fruit here, spice and herbs. Just incredible complexity in this wine. Like I said, half the votes for first place. As many votes as the 64 Barbaresco. If you asked me before the tasting, there's no way I would have said 87 Cabernet is going to be one of the highlights, but it was. And all the Cabernets showed good. The 1994, a little bit more on the green and herbal side with some black truffle, black olive tapenade, but still a lot of nice fruit in this wine. And this wine was still tannic on the finish, along with a firm hand of acidity. This wine really well built. Is it going to come around? Are the tannins going to soften out in this wine? I'd like to see this wine another 10 years, possibly, but drinking really nice. The 2000 Cabernet, also beautiful. This one had a lovely cherry and black currant fruit to it, fine herbs, some toasty oak spice. You notice some toffee coffee in this wine. Very intense fruit, though. Lovely texture on the tongue. This wine, smooth and silky. The 2000 vintage, a very ripe year, so the wine's showing very nicely right now. And I don't want to say completely evolved, but showing some evolution. But this one will go another decade easily. It got one vote for first place. And almost every vine got at least one vote for first place. Most excellent juice. Then on to the money wines, the single vineyard wines, Costa Russi, Sori Tilden, and Sori San Lorenzo. And the Costa Russi vineyard, I think, was the last of the three crews to come online. It was purchased by Gaja in 1967. And Costa means the side of the hill that faces the sun, and Russi is the nickname of the former owner. And this wine's still a bit tightly wound. Some lovely fresh earth, truffle, black tar, dried floral notes of the dark cherry fruit. Still tightly wound on the palate. These 99s are a very classic vintage in the Piedmont. Wines that still need more time. On the second day, these wines opened up nicely. And, I should have opened them in the morning on the first day or the night before. They would have showed much better. But this wine, still on the next day, lots of everything. Very complex and layered with a firm hand of acidity holding things in place. And lovely tannins in this wine also. Most excellent juice, but needs another day. And hey, we still have some of these wines for sale. They're at my wholesale price for the new releases for these wines. So you can buy single vineyard wines from Barbaresco for less than the price of the current release, which needs 10 to 20 years at least. So if you like Gaia single vineyard wines, these are incredible values. The Sori Tilden, also acquired by the Gaia family in 1967, and was first made into a single vineyard wine in 1970. And Sori is a Piedmont for a hilltop with a southern exposure, and Tilden was a nickname of Angelo Gaia's grandmother, Catilda Ray. And this wine also very tightly wound, but some lovely fruit in this wine showing on the second day. Dark cherry, truffle, dark spices, a host of flowers and herbs. Very firm on the palate. This wine kind of falls in between the Sori San Lorenzo and the Costa Russi in terms of size. But on this day, all three of these little monsters, all these wines really needed time. And like I said, I should have opened them up the day before. Some chalky tannins at the end of this wine. Just needs another decade to come together fully. Most excellent. And on this day, the Sori San Lorenzo was my favorite. This is named after the patron saint of Alba, San Lorenzo. And it was the very first single vineyard bottling with a 1967 vintage. And San Lorenzo, located just south of the village of Barbaresco in the famed Cru Secondine. And this wine just seemed to have a little more richness and a little more concentration. It had more fruit, actually, than the first two wines on the first day, but lasting on the second day, just like the first two wines. This wine much better after it's been opened up for 24 hours. Most excellent juice. Everything we had. And thank you, Dr. Martin, again, for bringing the Chateau Yquem. Which one of these things just doesn't belong here? Hey, we'll have Chateau Yquem any day of the week. I don't care if it's not from the Piedmonts. And a Gaia white truffle tasting. Is Chateau Yquem appropriate? Always. And the 2000 vintage, drinking beautifully. All right, that's what we had to drink at our Gaia white truffle event. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying, remember, always drink the good stuff first.